Today we're going to see how GraphDB can allow authenticated API calls and reject calls that aren't authenticated. I'm going to use the curl utility to send HTTP requests with Sparkle queries and with Sparkle update requests to a GraphDB Sparkle endpoint. The first query is in a file called hothprops.rq. It asks for all the property names and values for the planet Hoth in the Star Wars dataset. I'll use the curl utility to send that file's query to the Sparkle endpoint for this Star Wars repository. And there they are with URIs for the property names and commas separating the property names and property values. Now I'm going to go to the GraphDB workbench where Star Wars is the currently active repository. I'll pick Setup, then Users and Access, and then turn on Security. I'm logged in as admin, and we can see two users here. Both User 1 and User 2 have permission to read the Star Wars repository, but we see from the color coding of their pencil icons that only User 2 has write access. When I do the command to request Hoth properties that I did before, it doesn't work because authentication is on. I'll do it again with a curl command that is the same as before but adds User 1's login name and terrible password. And it works. I'm going to try adding some new data about the Hoth planet to the Star Wars repository, and I'm going to do this with User 1's credentials. Here is the update request. We're adding an RDFS comment saying that Hoth is a great planet. Here's the curl command for User 1 to send that update request. And User 1 is forbidden from writing to that repository, but we saw on the Users and Access screen that User 2 does have permission, so let's try that. It looks like the server didn't have a problem with User 2's update request. With my User 1 hat back on, I'm going to repeat my earlier query for all the data from planet Hoth. And we can see that the new data really got added. Including the user's passwords with all these API calls is not the best way to implement a secure application, and GraphDB offers us a nice alternative. I can use a username and password to generate a token that I can reuse for authentication for up to 30 days with no need to include the username-password combination with the requests. I'm going to ask for one of these tokens with this curl command, which has a URL for the login controller and passes a username and password in a little block of JSON. It also includes the -i parameter to tell curl that I want to see the header that the server sends with a response. I execute the curl command, and I see about a dozen lines in the response header. The one that I'm interested in is the authorization one. I'm going to copy the token that the server sent me on the authorization line and paste it into my text editor. I'm then going to take a version of the curl command that sent the query requesting all of Hoth's property values, but instead of sending the username and password, the new curl command is going to include the new authorization token. I paste the new command at the command line and execute it. And there is the requested data. So we see that authorization with the generated token was successful. Just to make it clear that this isn't about curl, but about the HTTP API that GraphDB supports, here is a Python script that retrieves the data about the planet Hoth while authenticating as User 1, just like we saw with the curl command earlier. When I run it, I get the same result. Python and most popular programming languages have HTTP libraries that let you communicate with endpoints like this, which makes it very straightforward to integrate secure communication with the GraphDB server into the applications that you build with your favorite development language, whether you're using Linux, Windows, or a Mac.